Another beautiful day in Gotham City, where almost anything can happen to bankers, teachers, even podcasters.
Hello?
Yeah, I want to bet 500 on Rainbow.
You have the wrong number. This isn't the OTB. Well, that was odd. Hello?
I'll take 1,000 on Bumbleshoot.
You got the wrong number. I can't take any bets.
You can't.
I heard you were going to be on the Batcave podcast.
Yeah, but just to talk about the episode.
You mean you're not trying to get a piece of the action?
No, that's another Batman episode. John's already covered it.
Want to bet on how he feels about the Londinium larcenies?
That's a sucker's bet.
Some might say you're a sucker for doing a third season Batman episode.
Why don't you listen to the podcast? And you might think differently.
I don't listen to podcasts.
What did I get myself into with this guy?
Welcome back, citizens, to an all-new episode of the Batcave podcast. It's your old bat chum, John S. Drew here, and we're continuing our journey through the third season of Batman, but it's interesting to note we're only a few episodes in, and already we're seeing a returning villain in the form of the Penguin, who appeared in the first episode of the third season. And I want to get into this with my guest today, because here's the problem. Now the show is once a week. You've really got to start showing some variety, and what do you do after this is the fourth episode in? You bring the Penguin back, and you bring him back for a two-parter. But I didn't bring back an old guest to talk about this episode. In fact, we have a new guest here. He's the host of the Hunnic Outcast podcast. He is the Hunnic Outcast himself. Welcome to the podcast, sir.
Recording on Batman Day. Have the Penguin in an episode with Ethel Merman. What a deal.
What a deal. Yes, that's right. As we're recording this, it is Batman Day. Seems very apropos that we do this. Sadly, I'm only recording one today because my other guest couldn't make it. I have to reschedule with him for the second podcast. But yes, you're absolutely right. We should look on the bright side of this. It is Batman Day. It is Penguin and such. But I did find it odd because I'm thinking to myself, you're really trying to show that this is a different show, and you're trying to show that things have changed up. And what do? You quickly roll out, as much as people love Burgess Meredith, and I love him too as the Penguin. Did you think it was a bit much too soon?
For Penguin, I think it's because it's Burgess Meredith, and this was probably the most popular character in Batman 66. Dare I say more popular than Riddler.
Ooh.
It was odd because when I would watch Batman 66, if Joker was on at the time, I was like, okay, it's Cesar Romero. Okay, if it was Eartha Kitt or Julie Newmar, of course, I'll watch it. If it was Frank Gorshin, well, of course, in Season 1. If it wasn't Riddler, I wasn't interested. But Burgess Meredith, there was always something about him. He was always on TV for me, especially on PBS. There was a televised version with him and Zero Mostel in Waiting for Godot. So, between that and, of course, Of Mice and Men and Rocky, I was a huge Burgess Meredith fan. So, I was just glad that they had brought him back. And I thought at the time this was going to be a spin-off for a Penguin show. Like, they were going to make it Charles and Bilko.
There is something there that's very different about this episode compared to his other ones. And part of it being just also that, like with the previous Riddler episode with the boxing, they were taking on some of the fads of the day and talking, sort of making somewhat of a commentary on it, in this case, horse racing. I could see where you might think it's actually a spin-off. Let me ask you something. Your involvement in watching Batman 66, where does it all begin for you?
For me, I think it started as soon as the Challenge of the Super Friends show on Saturday mornings would come and go. reruns of Batman 66 would air on Saturday mornings in my neck of the woods, and then they would air on weekday afternoons on Fox 5, and then they would rerun on Channel 11 WPX in New York sometime, I believe, when Batman 89 was coming out. I guess Fox and Warner Brothers tried to bring anything and everything back that was Batman, and Batman 66 seemed to be the thing, especially when Batman Returns was in theaters with the Batman 66 reruns. There were these mini marathons for like 2-3 hours that would show Penguin.
Now, you got me thinking, just as you were saying, Challenge of the Super Friends and all, and of course the Riddler was featured in that season's offerings there among all the other villains and such. Did Penguin ever appear in the Super Friends?
I don't recall him appearing so much in the Super Friends. I don't know if it was a contract issue or like I'm not too sure. The details have always been sketchy. I do know that he was on the new Scooby-Doo Mysteries.
Right.
He was on that a lot with Joker. They would team up a lot, but I don't recall him being on Challenge unless it was a small cameo. I don't know if it was just there were too many villains or it's always been foggy.
Right. Well, let's talk about this episode here. Actually, these 2 episodes. It's our first 2-parter. We're going to get a couple of these in the course of this 3rd season. We're also going to get 1 3-parter. But this 2-parter is called The Sport of Penguins and a Horse of a Different Color. They aired on October 5th and 12th, 1967. So here we go. We're getting into our once a week. And it's interesting, too, and we'll get into this in more detail as we go along. One of the mainstays of Batman is the cliffhanger. And we barely get one for this one here. It's not really much of a cliffhanger except, the ominous music as Batman approaches the phone.
Yeah, what cliffhanger? There wasn't even a death trap, which is even more disappointing.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure, again, to me, and I'm going to lay the cards on the table here, I think this was a great idea. I think it was poorly executed, and I think that there are a number of things here that just sort of like scream, what are you doing?
I do like the idea that they were going to bring in horse racing at this point. I do like the idea that Penguin, since he's transitioned from being a man of the town to a politician, where else is he going to go right now but back to his roots? And his roots would be a bookmaker and fix horse racing. So for me, it made sense. It even makes more sense that we have Ethel Merman in an episode, thank God. My only disappointment was she should have come back as Ma Parker, because Ethel Merman, I was a huge fan of It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. She's loud and boisterous. I go back and I watch the Ma Parker episodes. To me, that should have been Merman, and Merman could have just easily fit in the role. This character, to me, Lola Lasagna, it feels like they're just taking alliterations and saying them really quickly and trying to get a laugh.
You're probably right about that, because that's something else, too. This is really the first villain. She's not a super villain. She's just a person who happens to know Penguin because they hung out together as kids and caused trouble, which was something I loved. I was like, that's what you should be playing up here. Let's get a little more of Penguin's backstory. I mean, between the bookmaking and knowing Lola Lasagna, suddenly he's got a history. That was all cool, but those were quick side notes to throw out there, and then off we went to continue with the story.
Well, Penguin has always been an interesting character, and I think one of my favorite graphic novels was Pain and Punishment. And I understand you can't take Penguin's backstory from the comics and put it in a 66 show. There were just too many issues.
Right.
You had the Catholic League of Decency, you had parent groups. But Penguin, for me, if you take away what Tim Burton tried to do with Penguin and really go through the psychology of the character, that he was born short and fat and had a deformed nose, and his father wanted nothing to do with him, and his brothers wanted nothing to do with him, but only his mother wanted to spend time with him, I can understand why this character was so troubled. They could have brought up him being bullied, and he was never taken seriously by either fans or characters in the comics. It took a real long time for him to rise up. I think Gotham does a great job with what they do with Penguin. So yeah, the fact that we had Lola Lasagna that was Lou Schultz, and we'll get into that with how they get to know each other and how they play off each other, would have been great, but it just turns into like this vaudeville act.
Yeah, exactly. And I do agree with you. I think Gotham is doing a great job with Penguin for all the criticisms the show gets for being as off the wall as it is, which I still maintain that Gotham is Batman 66 prequel. But Penguin himself, the actor and the portrayal is just so good.
Even with Danny DeVito, I have not seen a bad performance of this character.
Yeah. No, I agree. So the show opens at Gotham Park Racetrack, and I'm really curious because a lot of times when we see these establishing shots, they're usually from New York City, and I'm trying to look at it because now it's dated which New York City racetrack. If it is from New York City, it is, because we have several in the New York City area. I don't know. Did you know?
I wasn't too sure if this was stock footage or not, and I have not been to a racetrack in New York City in years, so I couldn't tell if this was just footage and they were just on the back lot in LA. It was really hard to tell. It all happened like so quickly.
Yeah, it did. Speaking of quickly, it's interesting because the first couple of episodes, the teaser has been a little on the longer side. This was fast because here's Lola Lasagna and she's showing off her prize horse Parasol very quick, and then suddenly the whole proceedings is interrupted by Penguin, who just comes in, grabs her own personal parasol that she was carrying and waddles off, and we cut right to credits.
I felt like this was a director that was ready to direct a McDonald's Happy Meal commercial. It feels that Burgess Meredith was just off frame, walks on, takes the parasol, walks off, and Lola's like, "Come back here, you waddling bird." Even her delivery. Yeah. She's known for being loud and boisterous. I keep going back to it's a mad, 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 mad world, and here, Ethel just, most of the time, and I'm sure I'm going to be repetitive on this a lot, she's standing around and smiling and twirling that parasol like the director didn't know what to do with the Ethel Merman. I did my best to try to research. There is a interesting bit of trivia. We'll get there about the 3-week marriage. But I just don't understand why they wouldn't let her be the character from Mad, Mad, Mad World or Annie Oakley or anything. It's just her showing off the horse and then whispering to the horse and saying, your legs are all we have at this point.
Yeah.
It just, if she's supposed to be a socialite and a struggling socialite, she seems to be okay with it, just standing there and smiling and twirling the umbrella.
Yeah, it's true. Usually when you bring in these actors, these celebrities, what have you, you play up something about them that everybody would recognize. When Liberace came in, it's not like they just simply had him be Harry the tough guy. There was also Chandel, so he could play the piano. There's not even an attempt to even let her belt out a note or two.
I think it was just, we'll call you Lola Lasagna and we'll say it 1,000 times and people will just, you're the pasta queen or whatever. And no, that's not enough for her.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Act 1 opens at the library, where Penguin walks in and steals a rare book of parasols. Now, I just learned this recently, and it breaks my heart to find this out, because it didn't occur to me, is that we won't see the Wayne Manor living room set for the entire third season, because it's the library now.
We have the library, we have Barbara, which is, I guess you trade her out for Aunt Harriet, that's great. But Yvonne Craig, again, I know that she just recently passed. I don't want to open up an elephant's wound, but there was so much more they could have done with Barbara. Here's the thing. Penguin walks into the library, without any of his goons, mind you, and he's just taking his umbrella and using, I guess, a blowtorch on the tip of the umbrella and trying to open up the case to take the parasol. And Barbara...
What is this? You can't just barge in here, cut open a locked case, and walk off with a priceless folio of famous parasols?
Why not?
Among other things, it's a felony.
I'm a tax-paying citizen, and this is a public library. Besides, that case shouldn't have been locked in the first place.
I'm going to call the police.
Your beloved father, I presume.
Exactly. Stay right where you are. I'm putting you under citizen's arrest.
A tax-paying citizen's arrest, I hope.
Dad? Barbara, listen, the Penguin just waddled in here, cut open a lock case, and tried to waddle off with... Just a minute.
She's just standing there with these expressions on her face and like, what are you doing? If she's supposed to be Batgirl.
He's gone. But he left an umbrella in the umbrella stand, and it's...
Ticking. Ticking? The umbrella handle is ticking. Holy time bomb. Lucky we happened to be here.
I wonder you took the words right out of me mouth.
Tell her not to remove the umbrella from the stand. Penguin will want to escape to the library alive, which should give us time to get there. Come on.
Right.
Even in the comics, Barbara Gordon would be a little bit more suspicious, and Barbara would try to do anything, but she just stands over there and saying, like, what are you doing, Penguin? And Penguin goes, well, it's a public library. You know, he kind of uses the fine-feathered language to say about taking out the book, and Barbara is ready to call the police, and what does Penguin do? He could, I guess with the budget, he couldn't use the knockout gas in his umbrella. He just walks over to Barbara as they're walking over to the librarian desk as she's calling the police. And that's pretty disappointing, even for a Penguin episode. They do bring up, and continuity is the key, how he did try to kidnap her and force her to marry him. So I do like that part.
They bring it up, but they're not going to bring it up here in this particular scene. There's no dialogue between them about the failed marriage attempt. It's later that Barbara will mention it to Batman and Robin, and it's later that Penguin will get himself all into a lather over the fact that she spurned him and such, and she needs to pay, and then he's got his little revenge plan. But right here and now in this one scene, not a word said between them. I mean, certainly there's a familiarity because she walks right up to him and she's like, Penguin, what are you doing and such. But you're right. For someone who is, and yes, she's relatively new, but you would have thought that maybe she'd slip away. She slips away in the network pilot. She manages to make her quick change there for Killer Moth. I mean, all right, actually she's tossed into a room, but still, she's just standing there gawking at him for the longest time, letting him do it before she finally confronts him.
It almost reminds me, and I'll bring this up a second time later, of a movie that was on Mystery Science Theater 3000, Wild World of Batwoman, where there are two different scenes, and there's just one scene where these two Batwomen see a robbery, but because you're watching stock footage of another film, all the actors can do, instead of splicing or having stunt doubles come in, the two Batwomen are just standing there and gawking, and one is trying to act shocked, but it looks like she's yawning and nodding her head up and down and left and right and doing nothing. And that's how I kind of felt with Barbara with this.
Yeah, I agree. And then, he stands there because she's like, I'm going to call the police. She's calling the police. So he stands there and he kind of moves his way over to the umbrella stand where he puts his umbrella, leaving it behind, and it's ticking away and beeping and stuff. And so, she tells her father about the umbrella. And wouldn't you know it, by coincidence, to save some time, who's at headquarters already but Batman and Robin?
I put this in my notes. I was just like, to me, this felt like Police Academy or Police Squad, where Barbara hears the ticking, and she walks over, then she walks over the phone, and she calls, and we cut to the commissioner's office, where O'Hara is there, of course, because he's always standing next to, the commissioner in these episodes. And Batman and Robin just lean in. It's like they were just conveniently there. Like, everybody was just standing around. Like, we knew something was going to happen. It is, to me, the most embarrassing transition I've seen in this series.
It's the most embarrassing transition. It also leads to one of the most silliest exchanges between Gordon and O'Hara as Batman and Robin race off. And, O'Hara uses the expression, I bet something. I forget exactly what, but to the effect of, I make a bet that this is going to happen or something. And Gordon looks at him and goes, you a law official making, and he's saying it with such sincerity. It's not even like he's just joshing with him, because O'Hara's using an idiom there. It just comes across painful watching the two of them do it.
Well, I do know that in real life, these two actors never got along too well.
Really?
So, they apparently, when I've done my research, it's not that they detested each other. There wasn't too much of the chemistry off screen. So they didn't care too much. I can understand that. But we have seen O'Hara, the character, and Gordon, the character, kind of have a back and forth, I believe, in season 1, where O'Hara was upset, like, why are you always calling Batman if I'm the chief of police? Here, it's... Yeah, I took in my notes that O'Hara says, I wager Penguin had something to do with the bomb, and Chief O'Hara's like, you wager a city official? Again, I guess they were really hammering down on the morality with Batman, especially with... If Robin would have said it, Batman would have, scolded Robin. But here, if Chief O'Hara says it, I guess I can understand what Gordon is trying to do and what Gordon is trying to say, but both are just embarrassed with the line deliveries, and O'Hara tries to talk his way out of it and backpedal and says, is it okay if I have a hunch? And it just doesn't feel right. I understand that Gordon's the commissioner and O'Hara's the chief, but it just feels that Catholic League of Decency had said something and they're going to say, we're working with you.
Yeah, it's very likely. I mean, I know there's plenty of examples peppered throughout the first 2 seasons of them doing their little moral lessons, but this one just seemed way too heavy-handed. Well, we get to the library. Batman now has the bat shield out, and he removes the umbrella, and he and Robin, interestingly enough, he doesn't even tell Robin stay behind. The two run out of scene for a moment. There's an explosion, a little bit of a shaking there, and then they come out, and it's like, everything's fine. It's all taken care of. And we get another weird thing. I know it's supposed to be a joke with Adam West's Batman. Whenever he's trying to talk out of the side, like so nobody can hear, he puts his hand in the wrong position so that it actually seems like everybody could hear. But the joke doesn't work here this time because there's only the 3 of them in the room.
I put that in my notes too. I wasn't too sure if that was supposed to be a joke or leading Barbara on. Because not only is he putting the hand on the wrong side of the mouth, he's not even whispering to Robin. You can tell whether it's out of frame or in frame, he's standing so close that he could have said, excuse me, Miss Gordon. Again, I don't know if it was a budgetary issue and they couldn't afford how they were going to frame the shot, or they were on deadline to have the episode, because again, this was going to be a once-a-week episode. But yeah, this to me just felt lazy. And as for the Bat Shield, well, again, it's nice that it came back. It's always been talked about, like, with Batman's utility belt, how does he unfold and fold this thing in?
Right.
And it seems to be multi-purpose now, because now he's calling it the Bat Bomb Shield. And this seems to be bigger than the regular Bat Shield, because sometimes it's like a bulletproof shield. I don't know if he tried to stretch it out, but to me this one looks a little bit bigger.
It looks bigger, and it's also a little bit more concave. It's more bent, actually. It seems to cover him more.
Yeah, I don't know if they ever sold this in toy stores, but...
I did like, in that scene, the way it was all going and such. If you look behind Barbara, whenever they did the close-up shots of her, there was this poster on the wall of various water vessels. And as a kid, my parents belonged to a kayak club in the Bronx, and in the clubhouse itself was one of those posters. So I always got a charge watching this episode and seeing the poster in the background. It just brings back memories of my childhood and such. And we do get that bit of continuity. Here's the scene where Barbara mentions that penguins had tried to marry her and such. So the two race back to the Batcave to consult the Bat computer. I like the next scene. I like this whole setup. And again, I think they could have played it up more throughout the whole thing. Penguin has a bookmaking scam going on in a bookstore.
While in Penguin's bookshop, or to be more accurate, Penguin's bookmaking shop.
Penguin's bookshop. Yeah, apricot soup in a 6 at Pimlico. 10 grand on the nose. You got it, Frankie. 10 grand for Frankie.
Right, Penguin.
I received a note. I might find my priceless stolen parasol here.
It's not as priceless as all that. A little research has proved to me that it is a fake. Just as you are a fake, Lulu Schultz. And I didn't need any research to prove that.
Lulu Schultz! I am Senora Lola Lasagna.
Horse feathers, Lulu. I knew you back when. I knew you when you'd steal the braces from other kids' teeth.
While you stole their teeth. But you're still very clever, Pengy. I thought I had the whole world fooled.
No, what about the other parasol? The 4-legged one. Is that also a fake?
You mean my prize-winning filly with the white stripe in the middle of her forehead? That's the only thing I have to show for my 3 weeks of marriage to Luigi Lasagna.
What? The billionaire South American playboy?
Not exactly a playboy, Pengy. Luigi's almost 80. Instead of dying, as any adoring young wife might reasonably expect, he divorced me. Can you imagine he thought I was after his money?
What slander.
Oh, and that stingy old judge. All he gave me was one horse. Yes, why, I even had to sell my real priceless collection of parasols for eating money. But if my horse parasol should win the Bruce Wayne handicap tomorrow, think of the purse.
What purse? It's an empty purse. All the proceeds from that race go to the Bruce Wayne Memorial Foundation.
It's perfect.
I was curious about the soundstage, though, because I don't know if it kind of looks like a soundstage from the previous Batman episode. I think a Riddler for some reason, but I do enjoy the fact that with the props, with the multicolored books, I don't know if that was Xerox paper that they just brought in. We don't see any wording on the books. We don't see a cover. We don't see anything. It's just this multicolored paper all over the place. And Penguin, it's business as usual.
Speaking to as you said, the soundstage and the set and all that. Yeah, in the third season, they basically just used the black background set there, and then they would put a few props up and around. It didn't work as well in the Riddler episode with the gym, but here it actually works, and later on it still works as well with the glue factory. It's not as bad, because I do find that very painful when you don't make any attempt to dress up or have any kind of walls in your setting and such. All you get is just this, infinite black background. But it works here for these two episodes.
This is interesting too, because we have brought this up where there was supposed to be canned laughter on Batman 66.
Right.
And I feel if you were going to use it, I don't know if this was the point to use it. Again, the way that they stand next to each other, I don't feel them in Batman 66 anymore. Now, my 6 or 7-year-old self was disappointed with this episode because I was like, not enough Batman and just Penguin talking to an unknown character doing bits. As an adult, getting to know everything with Merman and Meredith, how they're both classically trained actors and they've been in a lot of stuff, it makes sense now and it's a lot more enjoyable, but again, it just still feels out of place. If you want to get to know what Penguin is like and you want to know what this character's like, that would be great, but it just, in Season 3, it's not the time to do bits, especially if Season 3 was a sinking ship.
Especially if Season 3 was a sinking ship, and especially, I guess maybe they thought they could because this was a two-parter. You can't do these bits when you've only got 22, 23 minutes of story. You have to make this as tight as possible if you're going to keep the audience's attention. But I think they were just trying everything and anything they could to save themselves. That's why they would bring in two villains, and then a lot of these we'd have two villains in a one-part episode. So now you're not only trying to service the two guest stars, you're servicing your regular stars, which is why a lot of the situations suddenly happened rather than to the citizens of Gotham, but to Bruce Wayne, Dick Grayson, Barbara Gordon, Commissioner Gordon, whomever there. It would happen to them rather than to the citizens of Gotham. It was way too much. It's bad enough already you're working on a tight schedule and stuff, and now you're putting the extra pressure on to try and make this Batman universe as believable as possible. And I agree with you. I hadn't thought about that. It does come across as very vaudeville. I still like the idea, though, that they were childhood, I wouldn't say friends, but they knew each other. They were from the neighborhood. I would have liked that played up more, maybe in a more serious way, but I liked that. I almost kind of, now that you got me thinking about it, I almost wish, Lola Lasagna would show up on Gotham, and be something to, like a mole to Penguin or something.
Well, he's got Catwoman at this point, or a young Catwoman, which makes zero sense unless you're going back to Batman Returns, and for some people, the less we think about that, the better. Especially since Selena Kyle is jailbait in that episode.
Yes, exactly. Oh.
I took a lot of notes on this fixing the horse race. That they're trying to fix a horse race where the proceeds go to charity. They have to find a way to bring in another horse that's supposed to be like Lola's and dye that horse or do something to change the horse and do like an old switcheroo. Because even if Parasol, and this is where it gets even more bizarre, if Lola's horse Parasol is a favorite, and I understand that favorites kind of pay peanuts because it all goes back to the odds. So they try to draw this out for another 5 minutes, but before they even draw that out, there was something interesting of how Lola has gotten to the situation, how she's so desperate that she has to work with Penguin because she apparently married this playboy, but apparently, and I do like this joke that it's almost early Anna Nicole Smith before it was Anna Nicole Smith, where she marries the guy for his money, but she goes, well, instead of doing the decency and dying like any 80-year-old, he divorces me after 3 weeks, which is actually supposed to be a reference to Ethel's real-life marriage to Ernest Borgnine. So they put that in. I thought that was funny. But now she's been so desperate, like, Penguin is just standing there and playing off of her and saying, well, I had to sell my priceless parasols for eating money, and he's just like, ooh, like, tisk. And all she gets out of divorce is this horse. So I do like they do find a way to finally build up and get to the point why she's here and why they have to fix this race. So where else are they going to go, or where else are they going to do to get a horse? Well, we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah. Speaking of getting there when we get there, we get to the Batcave, and I know this is going to sound weird, but I've never been a big fan of the Batcomputer because it never really seemed to make much sense. And even though this scene doesn't make a whole lot of sense, I'm willing to go along with how they jump from parasols to horses and from there to a glue factory.
Oh, that's easy. It's plot of convenience. We only have 22 minutes in this episode without commercials, so we'll just say whatever and we'll just get there. It almost, again, to reference that South Park episode with the season 7 with Canceled, how we had the Jeff Goldblum character that's just saying things and finally gets to the point. This was odd because they do go from Penguin to parasols in a sticky situation, and the Batcomputer just seems to be printing. I don't know if it's the voice command. Yeah, it just seems to be printing out. Everything seems to be a plot of convenience. And you're right. It's like they find out that Lola Lasagna was Lula Schultz, and it's like, oh, well, tough break. She's going to work with Penguin now, I guess. They go from parasols, and Robin just stands there and goes, this is a sticky situation. And you're right, the Batcomputer just starts to print out Glue Factory.
Yeah. And despite it though, I'm fine with it. For some reason, I don't know why, it actually seemed to flow. Like you said, it was plot convenience, but the whole scene did flow enough to move things along. It didn't stick out like some of the other scenes. Batman wants to pay them a visit, so off they run off. Now this bothers me. Because Alfred picks up the phone and calls Barbara Gordon. He's risking, his whole... I mean, granted, he comes up with a good cover story when Barbara asks, how did you know all this? But he risks being discovered. And for that matter, considering he even in the very first episode shows his concerns about Batgirl's activities and such, why does he even call her in?
It's backup. I feel that in the first time that Alfred had met Barbara and saw what Barbara can do, that Alfred feels that Batman and Robin can't fight crime alone. Now, Batgirl was brought into the comics because of that whole Seduction of the Innocent book. Here, I feel that she was supposed to be brought in for the female demographic and show that girls can be superheroes too, which would be great. The problem is that because Alfred knows another dark secret, he, as we know, swore to Barbara Gordon, Batgirl, that he won't reveal it. My only issue with this is that we have Alfred trying to be as discreet as possible, and yet he always seems to have a smile and a twitch of his nose about it. He always seems to be very Alfred-tone about calling and hiding secrets. He's having fun still, and don't get me wrong, but it is weird that they have to keep saying Glue Gluten's Glue Factory as if this is the funniest thing in the world to say over and over again.
Yeah. And we get another reference to the first episode when Penguin hears the news that the bomb was unsuccessful. Now he flies into a rage and talks about being spurned in the first episode.
Not only does he hear the news on the radio about how the bomb umbrella didn't work, he's got a Penguin radio, which also would have been a great toy for this character, which I don't know if they ever sold. But it's Gary Owens, the late great Gary Owens, who's the narrator on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, hold on a minute.
What's that?
Here's a radio. I did a little research at the library and left a souvenir. I want to see if it's exploded yet.
Exploded?
Yeah.
Oh, Pengy, you're still up to your naughty little tricks, aren't you?
That's right.
And thus the dynamic duo really earned their name this afternoon when they successfully detonated a bomb ingeniously planted in an umbrella handle at the Gotham Library. And now for the...
Fire the dynamic thunderhead. 4, double 4, triple 4.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great, too, to bring Gary in.
I was watching an episode of The Green Hornet the other day, and Gary Owens was the newscaster for the Daily Sentinel TV station. But it was interesting because it turns out that the news desk for the Daily Sentinel TV station is within the office of the Daily Sentinel newspaper. In fact, it's right within Britt Reed's office. So there's Britt sitting at his desk with his secretary standing next to him, and they're watching through the window into the little TV studio that's very small as Gary Owens is reading the news. I'm like, this is incredible. Like, talk about micromanaging with your boss. This is incredibly creepy. And unfortunately, they didn't do a close-up of Gary Owens. You recognized the voice. You could see the face in the distance, but it was a shame. I'm like, why aren't we getting a close-up of Gary Owens?
Yeah, you gotta love that budget.
Yeah.
You got what they could cram in.
So we come to Act 2, where Penguin and Lola get to the factory first, and they're trying to work out a deal to actually purchase the horse, which I thought was interesting. They're not going straight up and stealing the horse itself. And I got to admit, as a kid, I found it extremely disturbing the first time I saw this episode, because that's when I learned that glue was made from horses.
Yeah, I always thought that if the horse had to be put down, they would melt the bones, but apparently it's just the hooves. It is disturbing, but what's even more disturbing about this is that we're told from Gluten that they don't use horses anymore, and yet Penguin goes, well, what's that thing over there, as he points off camera, and then we get the camera moving into this horse, and Glue is like, well, I always keep a spare, ba-bum-bum.
Yeah.
But this glue factory, again, it almost feels like the Batcave, where everything has to be labeled, where it's flypaper and library glue. Again, this would be a great glue factory to work in. I've toured glue factories as a kid for, at field trips. You always have to wear all these protective gloves and face masks because you don't want to breathe in the adhesive. Here it's just like, oh, he's just walking around, no gloves and apron, and oh, you're gluten, and it seems like a Willy Wonka glue factory. I would love to work in Gotham because everything is always bright, colorful, and labeled.
So you didn't see the spare horse in your tour?
No, sorry, did not, yeah. But it is weird, though, that you're right. Penguin doesn't come in and want to steal the horse. He does want to make a deal, and again, we get another bit where Penguin goes, I'll give you nothing down in a week, and it goes back to which week. So Batman and Robin are just standing outside, conversing with each other, waiting. Here's the thing, too. It almost feels like they're in a cameo. This is the Penguin show at this point. And they'll just come in to say, hi, we're here, and like any spin-off show, the major characters will come in for a cameo and walk off. This feels like a fight, and it's not stretched out either, mind you. I do love the bits that Burgess plays off of Gluten. It just, again, it doesn't feel very Penguin-esque. He would just come in, use the Penguin gas, and walk away.
I agree, and they're out there watching, like you said. It's they're watching for a moment, and again, another bit of dumb dialogue where it's like, we really can't arrest them for trying to buy a horse, and then Batman has to point out, but we can for putting the bomb. Well, then, what are you waiting for? I mean, finally they do come in.
Rat, double rat, triple rat.
Expletives will get you nowhere, Penguin.
Except back in the cooler.
The cooler? Because I was conducting a little private business?
No, because you've been misconducting some public business.
Like bombing libraries.
Oh, that was a whimsical prank.
What other whimsical pranks are you and your charming conspiratress up to?
You do have a way with words, Batman.
They want to buy a horse.
Senora Lola Lasagna, the owner of that fine Philly parasol?
Well, you see,
Cool it, Lulu. Now grab that nag and paint a stripe in his forehead and make the switch at the track. I'll meet you back at the bookshop.
Hey, I ain't got a deal.
A deal? You got a full house. Armband, visor, you're the fixed. Attack!
And, this is the first episode where we're getting Batman and Robin just doing the fighting for a bit before Batgirl jumps in.
Yeah, and before we even get to the bat fight, one of the interesting things is when they try to go through the window and they're going through together and they can't fit in, it feels like a Laurel and Hardy thing, and they look at each other. Then they get into this fight, and you're right, it's like Lou Gruden's upset he didn't get a deal, and Penguin's like, a deal? You get a full house. The goons come out of nowhere. The fight is well choreographed.
I like the bit, though, where Robin is sort of pinned down by a bunch of goons, and they're sort of tossing him up and down a little bit, and he just keeps calling out Batman's name.
I always say with these Batman fights, no two are ever alike. They're snowflakes. But you're right. The goons somehow grab Robin. They're tossing him in the air as every time Robin's being tossed up, he screams Batman's name. What are the goons trying to do exactly? Are they trying to hoist him in the air? Are they trying to throw him into a vat of glue? It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever of what the point is.
Come along, little Pengy.
Oh, struck out by Batgirl.
No, you're right, but it's still pretty funny as he just keeps calling out, because he must call it out like about 3 or 4 times before Batman gets over to him.
I also have an issue with this because it has been brought up. If you've read early comic books with Robin, and I do have the 75 Years of Robin, he is an acrobat. He's also been trained by Batman. He has been in situations where he's been able to escape. Here it always feels like if Batman isn't next to Robin, Robin is taken out so quickly, and I never could understand why. Here, it's probably the most embarrassing way Robin's being taken out. Batgirl finally comes in, but again, with Batgirl, she just seems to walk around to a air kick, and that's pretty much it. But she also takes out a rope and wrangles Penguin for a couple minutes.
She does. She manages to catch him.
Good job.
Gosh, Batman, they sure hit the tape.
They certainly did, old chum. We usually don't need help in our fights, Batgirl, but this time your presence is certainly appreciated.
Thank you. I couldn't ask for a greater compliment.
But in the whole confusion, Lola gets away with the horse.
Yeah, even Penguin whispers out loud, paint the stripe, because the real horse Parasol has a white stripe down his face. So he's telling Lola to take that horse who doesn't have a white stripe and paint it. And he's saying this out loud if he doesn't want to blow his plans. So you're right. None of this is starting to make sense anymore.
Yeah. And we'll talk about not making sense. I mean, I guess he's just doing it to be a pain in the neck. But, when Penguin gets free, he grabs a bucket of glue, goes outside, and starts painting the seats of the Batmobile, which is just going to prove to be a pain in the neck for Batman and Robin. But it doesn't seem to slow them down too much, as we'll see with the progression of the story.
This is Silver Age at its finest, and I think this is the third time I've seen Penguin take down the Batmobile. He did it in this episode. We'll see it in Batman Returns. We'll see it in a Batman the Animated Series episode. Penguin and the Batmobile don't seem to get along too well, as I've heard stories that the Batmobile was supposed to have a life of its own. It would have been interesting to see him chase Penguin down or something with a remote control. But you're right, all Penguin seems to do is take library glue, conveniently, and just paint it with this orange goop. And you're right, you would think he would place a bomb, but I don't know if it's out of budget, or I don't know if it's out of Penguin has other things to do. I was always disappointed that of all the things Penguin could have done to slow that, this would have been great to put in some sort of glue death trap, which would have been, if the goons are tossing Robin up and down, do something and put Robin's life on the line with throwing him into glue. But no, he just paints, as we said, the Batmobile with library glue.
And we get one of the more lines of the episode when inside Batgirl has her whole cover story as to how she learned about what Batman and Robin were doing. She goes, "I have one weapon in the war on crime that you lack, a woman's intuition."
Oh, God. Well, if she doesn't say woman's intuition, I think she said it a couple times in the series. She uses tarot cards. Yeah, the writers didn't know what to... It almost feels with Monty Python's Flying Circus where they would have to bring in a woman, and the Pythons admitted that they don't know how to write for women. That's why they would dress up as women. Nobody knew how to write for this character, which is a shame. It almost feels like you have 3 kids, 2 brothers, 1 younger sister, and every time the 2 brothers want to go out and do something, you have this little tag-on. It's like, wait for me. And that's how Barbara felt, which was really disappointing. She always felt like the tag-along. But there's also something that's even more disturbing in this series. Does Batman have a crush on her?
This is something we've discussed in these early episodes, because definitely in the network presentation, there clearly was a flirtation with Batman and Batgirl that was going on there, that they really didn't pick up, but there's still moments of it, and it's possible he does, because, you know, Robin's all like, when Batgirl does her disappearing act, he's like, let's follow after her, and Batman's like, no, we've got to respect her privacy. How much of that is actually respecting her privacy, and how much of that is just actually respecting her, or maybe having some sort of feelings towards her? I don't know. It's something they never get into, obviously, throughout the rest of the series and such. But it's an interesting thing to wonder about there. Where does it all stand? Because some of my other guests have pointed out, later on as the comic books would go on, it becomes more about Robin and Batgirl getting together.
Yeah, and even in the animated series, Barbara had stated that she and Bruce would date, and in Batman Beyond, Barbara's bitter about it because she knew what Bruce Wayne was all about. But here, it always seems that Batman is always the flirt. It's like, Catwoman what? It is bizarre. I guess they figured in the comics they would pair Bruce and Barbara up because they're both the same age, and Batman, the world's greatest detective, never really wonders. I guess he just feels that she's not jailbait or whatever the case may be. But as Batgirl always seems to somehow disappear, even with those high-heel boots, like it would make enough noise, we do have the Batgirl theme. And I do love how Batman, he kind of does like a spoken word version of the Batgirl theme, like William Shatner. So
Yeah.
that was...
Yeah, using a lot of similes. So, of course, you know, Batman and Robin get stuck in their seats at the end of Act 2. Act 3 opens. Lola has made the switch. Parasol is now at the bookstore. Penguin decides the horse's new name will be Bumbershoot. And he points out that Bumbershoot will be 100 to 1. They can tidy up easy, but they need money in order to place a bet themselves. So Penguin decides to steal the Parasol book again from the library, because he never got away with it the first time. He did leave it behind, which I also thought was interesting. So at the library, Penguin trips the alarm, and we see that Barbara... I thought this was interesting. Is Barbara the head librarian, or is she just a librarian just out of school? Because why would Barbara have the alarm going off? Wouldn't the head librarian have that at her place or his place?
I always took it as Barbara wasn't the head librarian, but I took it that since Barbara was Gordon's daughter, that she was given some responsibilities and she was trusted because Chief Gordon is commissioner of the GCPD that the head librarian must have trusted Barbara with some duties. And Barbara is always there. I mean, whatever time it is, she's somehow just there. Even at night at times if she has to do research or whatever, you'll see Barbara at the library. If she's not at the library, she's at her apartment. But I guess it's just another plot of convenience, and do you really want to see anybody else but Yvonne Craig, in all honesty?
Well, that's true. And we come to the end of the episode with...
But are they all too late? Will Penguin and Lola succeed in pulling off the foulest race-fixing scheme of all time? For more, tune in the next episode.
I mean, it's not a cliffhanger. It's like the music's playing. It sounds all ominous and everything as Gordon calls Batman and he approaches the phone in the Batcave. And it's just, wow. You know, that I'm excited. Let's watch next week.
Yeah, it is weird that William Dozer just says tune in next week. And that was the other thing, too. What I missed with seasons 1 and 2, Dozer would give us a recap and he would discuss a scene and we'd get a freeze frame going to the next scene. You're right, we don't even get that. This felt like the show literally is on its last legs. And
it seems that way, which is sad. I mean, we know there's going to be some halfway decent episodes coming up. This one, though, just really, you know, and again, the teaser, like you said, no recap. It's really short as we just cut right in with Penguin completing the theft as Batman, Robin, Gordon, and O'Hara confront him, but he gets away using gas from his umbrella. And that's when Barbara arrives, and Batman turns to Robin and says, to the Batcave. I mean, you know, so I guess this is supposed to appease us that we didn't get to the Bat Poles or something. And it cuts right to credits.
Yeah, again, if any gadgets are interesting, it seems to go back to Penguin. That's a multi-purpose umbrella. It's a bomb, it's a blowtorch, it shoots Purple Saurus Rex powder at Batman and Robin. I have to give... This seems to be one of the more interesting Penguin capers, but that book about priceless parasols... It is one of the more interesting props. And my other question is, if this is such a priceless book, and this is Gotham, and I understand the budgetary issues, but if you have a priceless book, I would not put this in a public library. It would have made more sense for a museum, especially since Penguin, this is the second time with an alarm or not, he's just able to go in and steal the thing.
Right. And I did like the line at the end of the first episode when he's like, you know, the library's not open yet. And Lola's like, when's that ever stop? She's like, you're right. You know, I don't know why, I just did. It's part of that whole slapstick. It's part of that whole vaudeville. I did like it. That was cute.
Well, they have to give Lola something, and they have to give Burgess something, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Act 1 opens with Penguin getting back to the bookstore, and, you know, we didn't get the recap. But now we're going to get some exposition as Penguin kind of, you know, tells us again what the whole scheme is, including now the addition of trying to get all the other horses scratched from the competition. And I like the plan that he's got, you know, basically, how do you scratch the horses from competition? You give them all itching powder.
Well, yeah. I have no comment. Yeah, I have no comment on this. At this point, Joker should have at least come in or have a cameo the more I think about it. I rolled my eyes with the whole itching powder thing because, yeah, scratch itching powder. Yeah, good one, Penguin.
Now, this gets all weird because I did like the setup, but at the same time, I'm like, you're using Alfred again to confront Penguin because, you know, there's a Mr. A.L. Fred who's looking for a rare folio on parasols. Penguin even makes a comment that this seems almost too good to be true, but he goes through and makes the call. But the weird thing is, we're not going to see the scene of the meeting. Instead, we're going to cut to later with just Alfred going, I got it. No problem.
This is where it gets weird. Yeah.
Well, it's not. I mean, it's been weird all along. Don't get me wrong. But this is where, like, to me, we've been talking about continuity and the importance of it. How many times has Penguin run into Alfred, and it's like he never seems to remember each encounter he has with him has always ended in trouble, and yet later on in this episode, he's going to recognize Dick Grayson.
the writers were at a stump and they were like, okay, we have to come up with something. So you're right. Well, it almost feels like a callback to the 66 movie where Penguin bought a sub under the name P.N. Gwyn.
Yes.
I thought that everyone was just grasping at straws and saying, well, maybe because kids watch it, their attention spans, nobody's really going to pay attention. But yeah, I felt my intelligence being insulted because the Penguin episodes reran a lot. And there's that famous episode where Penguin keeps trying to get arrested to meet this famous forger. And you're right, when he sees Alfred for the second time and realizes with the face, he puts it together and Penguin walks away. Alfred doesn't even disguise his voice. He just picks up the phone and goes, yes, this is A.L. Fred, and he's willing to buy the book for $10,000. Batman's logic through all of this seems to be, well, we'll let Penguin steal the book because we know he has a grander scheme. The only thing that keeps my sanity in this episode is that every crime Penguin has been doing has been a small one. They figure if he's doing a big one, they could put him away for a lot longer.
Right.
Which I guess kind of makes sense. So that's okay. It's just, you're right, going back to Penguin and Alfred like they've never met each other, it could have worked, but they just used the reference, this is A. Alfred and that's it.
Yeah.
And they get the money.
And they get the money. They get the money. He gets the book, the book back and such, the folio. And I did like that whole thing because Barbara calls, even though Batman and Commissioner Gordon said, don't bother Bruce Wayne with this, we'll get it back within the hour. She still calls Bruce anyway, out of a sense of duty and loyalty to the library and to Bruce Wayne and such. And he kind of gets in a little chiding at her, going, if Batman told you not to do it, if Batman told you to wait, what's wrong with you? Like, basically.
Yeah, it's weird because Barbara calls, and I guess, again, the only thing I can think of, we wanted more scenes of Barbara. If she's in this series and we want more scenes of Yvonne Craig, we'll put her in. But again, she just calls, they're having dialogue, and Barbara's curious what happened to the book, and Bruce Wayne goes, yeah, well, Batman came and gave me the book, and Barbara's like, okay, and Bruce Wayne's like, oh, you didn't believe him? Like, he's more upset with Barbara, and Barbara's being apologetic. But again, Barbara's not even suspicious. And we've talked about this a lot, that Bruce Wayne and Batman never changed their voice. I think Kevin Conroy was the only actor that did this. But you would think if the line is crystal clear, she would put two and two together and go, okay, now I know what's going on. It's always bizarre in this series that Barbara just became Batgirl 'cause. No other reason.
Yeah.
And then they just feel like if Barbara and Batgirl is supposed to be a role model for young girls, she's not even being stern with Bruce Wayne. She just is not even questioning. She's like, oh, okay, fine, I'm sorry that I bothered you, and hung up the phone.
Yeah. Yeah. There were moments in the series where we kind of got, the impression that Barbara was doing this. I think even like Dozier at one point says, doing it for a lark. It's just kind of like, it's fun, and I can be helpful, but it's fun. Yeah, you're right. I would have liked more motivation for why Barbara became Batgirl in the series. I mean, I know in the comic book, the whole thing with capturing Killer Moth and stuff, it was on her way to a costume party. She'd never intended it to happen that way, but, and from there came the whole thing. But it would have been nice to see something, maybe even like just something in the very beginning, like while she's at college, maybe during the second season, and you see she's admiring Batman, and it's like, she's been taking, like, I don't know, criminology as a minor or something while she's majoring in librarianism. Wow, that's a word.
Well, yeah, she's athletic and she works in a library, and that's enough for her to take out a section of her wall in her apartment and put in this rotation device and make it a secret Batcave. Yeah, Batgirl cave, and have a motorcycle in there, and somehow, if she's on the top floor, have the motorcycle go all the way down through a back alley and out, and nobody says a word. Yeah.
So we cut back to Penguin. He hears that the folio was recovered by Batman. Now he's angered, and he wants revenge. And again, it's like, come on. Now he wants revenge on Barbara. She's butting her nose into his whole thing. He's upset about the fact that she spurned him in the first place. He's finding this whole thing starting to sound a bit fishy, the whole scheme and everything. So he takes one of his penguins and sends it off filled with deadly gas to use against her. You're going to send it as a gift to her at the library. I cringe. Because this whole thing is just unnecessary to the plot in general, other than... Actually, even then it doesn't make any sense, because Alfred was going to go and talk to Barbara anyway, because then we get this whole thing where Bruce has got this whole plan about how to handle the race and stuff. He wants Dick to ride Parasol. He wants Batgirl to ride his horse, Rainbow, because all the other horses have now been scratched. And then, of course, there's whoever the jockey's going to be on the fake Bumbershoot. And it's this whole weird scheme. And he's like, who am I going to get to ride Rainbow? And he's like, Batgirl, but how do I get a hold of Batgirl? And, of course, Alfred, once again, will have to step in. And it's not even just a simple matter of calling the library and asking her. He's got to go and do it in person, which sets up the whole thing with the gas. And it's painful even just to talk about it. It just seems so stupid.
I put in my notes, I threw my hands up in the air and I just gave up and walked away. I just feel that if Penguin is going to try to take out Barbara, and I guess I could understand, because here's the other thing that we didn't talk too much about Penguin. Years later in the comics, Penguin is very one-track minded. If anyone is interested in the graphic novel Pain and Punishment, The Penguin, he not only rises to power, but he's very, very, very one-track minded. No matter what he gets, he wants to stick with that plan, and even if it can cause his downfall. So if it would have been put a little more in the series, I would have been okay with it. They don't use this idea until years later. He wants to kill Barbara for several reasons. One, because, she stopped him from trying to steal the book, and she refused to marry him. And I guess it's also because they want more dialogue coming out of Burgess's mouth, and Lola Lasagna's got to say something because they have the money. You're right. He's going to take her out with this penguin toy. Now, if he's the Penguin and he's trying to take her out, and he hands this giant penguin toy to his henchman, say it comes from a secret admirer, and we know there's a criminal known as the Penguin, that raises suspicions right there. Lola is right. She just wants to win a horse race. She doesn't want to kill anybody. It makes no sense other than it's more of a bit. And when that penguin toy does work in the library, per se, as it winds up and it releases the gas, again, it doesn't even hit Barbara. It hits her colleague, and that's even more bizarre because Barbara's not stupid. She knows there's no suspense whatsoever. The gas comes in, Barbara takes the toy, tosses it, and the colleague's okay and just picks herself up and goes to the ladies' lounge. And what? Okay, fine, whatever. This is just, we're dragging this out because we have too much time and we'll just do a lot of filler.
We have too much time and we have a lot of filler, and we never get then even a quick scene of Batman then or Bruce Wayne turning to Batgirl when she shows up and goes, I'll ride your horse. How did you hear about it? Even with a dopey line like woman's intuition or something.
Yeah, it's like... Yeah, and that's the other thing, too. Penguin shows up to the racing commissioner, and he calls Bruce Wayne. Penguin doesn't even try at this point. He's going in as the owner, the trainer, and the jockey, and he's wearing his penguin.
Yes.
He's got the monocle, he's got the umbrella, and the racing commissioner, okay, he is competent later, but he's not competent now because he has to call Bruce Wayne on this, and he's like, what should I do? And Bruce Wayne is just like, well, put him in because this is part of the plot. And I just was like, okay.
But, he's smart enough that he actually voices a lot of the concerns we have about this entire story, because he's like, this is absurd. And it's getting, and as it progresses, he's like, it's getting even more absurd. Did you notice also who played the racing commissioner? Herbert Anderson, who played the father of Dennis on Dennis the Menace.
the glasses were a dead giveaway in that crew cut. Yeah, it's Dennis Mitchell's father.
Yeah.
If anybody knows anything about chaos, it would be this guy, so I love that reference.
Yes, that's true. That's true. But meanwhile, Dick shows up as Lola's Spanish jockey.
I wish you were Spanish.
Si, senora.
Oh, you are Spanish. Do you speak Spanish?
Si, senora.
Good. It's nice to have a Spanish-speaking jockey on a Spanish-speaking horse.
Si, senora.
And I've got to admit, as a kid, I still have this memory as a kid thinking, my God, Burt Ward is a great actor, the way he can affect different languages and accent. I know it sounds dopey as anything, and all he was doing was going, si, senora, but I don't know. As a kid, I thought he was brilliant.
This is not too racially sensitive at all, but yeah, it's Dick Grayson. Here's what's bizarre, because Batman usually scolds Robin, or Bruce scolds Dick Grayson for not knowing every language. He's like, language is a universal language. How else are we going to have relations with foreign countries? You would figure they would at least take Burt Ward aside, or the actor would go aside and speak something, even if we don't understand it. No, he just stands there and goes, si, senor. And the only one who puts this together is Penguin, because Penguin realizes, oh, that's Dick Grayson. So at least Penguin's smart enough. I can understand if Lulu or Lola, whatever you want to... That was the other thing, too, that I love how she keeps saying she's Lola Lasagna, and Penguin's like, call yourself macaroni linguine, I don't care anymore. But I do love the fact that Penguin at least puts together that Dick is going to be a jockey, and then all of a sudden Batgirl is going to come in.
Yeah, but he recognizes Dick, but he doesn't recognize Alfred. I don't know. But he doesn't seem to be worried by any of this, because the horses line up on the track.
The horses are coming on the track for the $100,000 Wayne Foundation Memorial Handicap. 1 mile and 1 furlong.
And, everybody's surprised to see Batgirl riding up on Rainbow.
But as the horses come out on the track, what's this? Rainbow making his surprise appearance.
But even more surprising, that ain't a lady, that's a man.
With a very surprising saddle monkey aboard.
Riding your horse Rainbow, Mr. Wayne. It looks like it is. That new crime fighter I've heard something about. Batgirl.
She was up for doing it. She even actually said, let me ride the horse. And then when she saw how big it was, it scared her. And Tom was like, look, I can't. I'm sorry. I know I said I could, but I can't.
This is getting more farcical by the moment.
Let's just say there's a touch of irony in it. Well, Commissioner Gordon, Chief O'Hara, won't you join us?
That man called me. He said something very interesting might turn up here this afternoon. So Chief O'Hara and I better be on our toes.
The biggest complaint they have is that Penguin, the only thing his henchmen do is they take out a famous jockey, Wally Boltmaker.
What is that third horse doing down there?
A very late entry, madam. I believe he's called Rainbow.
Well, that looks like a girl riding it.
Doesn't it, though?
I better go make my bet.
Which I think is supposed to be based on a jockey Wally Shoemaker, but the issue is that we never see that jockey taken out, and also
It is now post time.
the track doesn't seem to be fixed. It seems like this will be an honest race.
I'm a $10,000 ticket on number 2, please.
Bumbershoot is not steady yet, not straight. We're waiting on Bumbershoot. He's fractious. The flag is up. There they go. Parasol is moving to the front. Bumbershoot is second. Rainbow is third. They're coming down the stretch the first time. It's Parasol in front by 2 lengths. Bumbershoot is second. 2.5 lengths. Rainbow on the inside.
I would have loved to see this go a little bit Ben-Hur, that Penguin secretly takes out like gas or glue while they're racing, but it just seems to be a regular race.
Yeah, that's like a staple in a lot of races when you see them on TV shows, is that the rider has something, whether it's, he might deliberately actually just start hitting the other rider or have something to knock them out. No, actually, from this point on, the race is pretty honest, even as the announcers call it.
On the inside, Parasol and Rainbow. It's Bumbershoot in front by 2 lengths. Parasol is second, and Rainbow coming out. Here comes Rainbow moving to the outside for the run, and Rainbow on the outside. Here comes Rainbow to Bumbershoot. It's Bumbershoot still in front, holding on the outside. Rainbow and Parasol is stayed. At the half mile, he hits the Bumbershoot in front, and now here comes Rainbow on the outside. Rainbow on the outside is now challenging and taking the lead. It's Rainbow on the outside, Parasol moving on the inside but can't find room. It's Rainbow. Rainbow coming clear. Bumbershoot is second. Parasol is far behind. It's Rainbow in front. Rainbow on the inside, and Bumbershoot again trying to challenge. Parasol is staying. Rainbow looking for a racing room. Comes on out. It comes to the leader. It's Rainbow coming clear. It's Rainbow now in front by one, and Parasol is on the outside. It's Rainbow, and now Bumbershoot again. Rainbow, and Rainbow is flying. There goes Rainbow, flying away. Rainbow wins it easily. Bumbershoot is second. Parasol is third.
As the races go, it's fine. I mean, Rainbow comes in and wins with Penguin in second, so he goes running off in disgust with Batgirl in pursuit, and the Dick follows after them, looking for a place, I guess, to make the change to Robin.
Hold your tickets. Please hold all tickets until the result of the race has been declared official.
My word.
And again, this is where, like, the racing commissioner is like, oh my God, it's just horrible and all this, and he turns and...
You may have a good-sized riot on your hands, Mr. Wayne. Almost everyone bet on Parasol. Batman better have a good explanation, too.
I'm sure he will.
It's a very dark day for racing in Gotham City, Mr. Wayne.
Bruce is no longer sitting next to him.
Mr. Wayne?
He's just disappeared as well.
Mr. Wayne?
All changed, and we better make tracks.
Why? We haven't done anything wrong.
We haven't done anything right. We just lost 10 grand, and the paint is running faster than the horse did.
Because we've got to get to, you know, the end fight.
You can't go in there. You're a woman.
Yeah, it was weird. He just tries to waddle away because he knows his goose is cooked.
No need to change clothes, Penguin. They'll issue you a nice striped wardrobe where you're going.
Fall, armband, visor, bridle that filly.
This one didn't feel too satisfactory, that we just would have Batgirl holding onto a bar and doing some more air kicks.
Help! Reserve! Reserve!
Your odds haven't been too good this afternoon, Penguin.
But 5 men against 1 girl is ridiculous.
Oh, I'm enjoying this. Don't bother.
No bother to return the many favors you've done for us, Batgirl.
Mash 'em!
We see this huge close-up of her face with her, which is a great way to continue a fight. Like, you're in a cheerful mood and your arms are on your hips and like, oh, I'm just having too much fun. Tee-hee. No, you're in a fist fight right now, lady. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, they treat this as it's every single day, and yeah, Penguin is taken out. That's pretty much it of the fight. It's not much of a fight.
Looks like your perfidious prank is up.
Perfidious 4. I admit I fixed the race, but I fixed it so the best horse won.
Regardless of that, Mr. Penguin, I'm sure that the results of the handicap will be declared permanently unofficial.
And you'll be declared permanently incarcerated. You too, Lulu Schultz.
Lulu Schultz. I am Senora Lola Lasagna.
Lasagna? In a penguin's tail feathers.
Come on, let's go.
You two.
On him.
Batgirl, she's gone again.
Like spray. Like a cloud. Like lightning.
We should try to find her and thank her.
Mere thanks are empty words, Robin. Whoever she is, wherever she goes, whatever she's after, I think we'll be seeing more of her.
Batman gets into another string of similes, how she's like smoke, she's like a dream, she's like whatever, and it's just, all right, we're done. You know, normally I don't comment on the end tag because I like to save that for just playing the audio of it at the end of the podcast, which is what I'm doing here for the 3rd season. But I had to comment on this one because we get Barbara and Commissioner Gordon talking with each other, and they spot King Tut. And it's not just simply a matter of, oh my gosh, he's returned or anything like that, like we've seen in the other ones. We get an info dump of who King Tut is. And I'm thinking at this point, this is his 4th appearance in 3 years. I think the audience knows who King Tut is.
I always loved this character, and I love Victor Bono. I think what's even more awesome about this is that Gordon is at the library with Barbara, and they're just talking, and they just see that there's an Egyptian scroll section, and Barbara's like, oh my god, that's King Tut? That's fascinating. And yet I don't even think she's in the next episode. So I didn't quite understand why Gordon would tell Barbara about this, and Barbara has nothing to do with it with the next one. And they don't even try to arrest him. They're just saying, like, well, sometimes he's the professor of Yale, but now he's King Tut, and, well, that's it, folks. Yeah. King Tut's this week, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You've got the police commissioner there. He doesn't make any move towards... Well, actually, what happens is he's so busy being caught up in his exposition, Gordon, that when he looks up next, it's like, oh my gosh, he's gone.
No, he's actually not gone. This is what's even better. Victor Bono walks off camera, and then he walks back onto camera after Yvonne Craig and Gordon walk off the camera. Like, he just walks back on, looks at the scrolls, and walks off camera again. So it's great.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about some of the elements of this episode. I mean, Lola Lasagna, we've been commenting on this throughout the whole episode. She's not really much of a villain. I liked Ethel Merman. I liked that she did the best she could with what she had to work here with. But she's really not, I mean, there's no superpowers, she's just this woman who's just trying to make some money because her scheme, I mean, she's a schemer more than anything else. She's a con artist. I like the fact that she ran with Penguin when they were younger. Unfortunately, that's not something they played up well, but they played it up more for jokes.
Ethel Merman, as I said hundreds of thousands of times, is that she's known for her loud voice. It would have been great. We have a character called the Siren that uses her high-pitched scream. We could have had Lola use her boisterous voice and, like, cause an earthquake or something. It would have made less sense, but it is Batman 66. And you're right, she pretty much just stands there doing her shtick, and at the end, not only is she bumping into Gordon and O'Hara, but then she just opens up a parasol and she's twirling like, I'm going off to jail, and oh well, that's pretty much it. She's like, I had a cameo or I had a role in Batman, and the end. It does feel very disappointing, and I go back to, if Shelley Winters didn't want to come back as Ma Parker, it would have made a lot more sense, at least for Merman, to come in as Parker, because for someone who yells and screams a lot, this would have been a great role and made much sense for Merman.
Yeah, I agree. This episode was written by Charles Hoffman, as we've discussed many, many times before, and this is clearly another good example. Hoffman wrote a number of episodes of the series, and he wrote a majority of the scripts for the third season. He's got some great ideas, but he never really follows through with the ideas in terms of really developing them. He's also clearly one of those forces that was behind moving away from what really worked in the first season of the show. The first season of the show, it was all about adapting the comic books and giving them the television spin and giving them the William Dozier Batman 66 spin. Hoffman was always about original stories. And yes, he had some great ideas, but they just never were well fleshed out. And I point to Mad Hatter as a clear example. I love the Mad Hatter. I love David Wayne. I just don't think his stories ever had a whole lot of weight to them.
Television is interesting, especially if you're doing an anthology series and you have to come up with a new show with a different character each week. If it were the same characters, I can understand. But if you have, okay, this week we've got Riddler, this week we got Mad Hatter, this week we got Penguin, well, you would figure you could do anything you want with Penguin because he's just a classic criminal. You don't have to worry about writing riddles or jokes. You could just write him being a bookmaker and fixing races or whatever. Television does eat you up, especially if you only have a few days to write a 2-part episode that needs to be done in a week. I get all that. The problem is that we have a lot of vaudeville and we have a lot of over-explaining of how we're going to unfix a fixed horse race, and that's where it trips over the finish line.
Yeah. The Goons? We do actually get the Goons getting names here. See, because one of the other problems with the dual villains is that they interact with each other. So you don't really need the goons to really interact with your villain very much. But they did make an effort to give them names. We've got Armband and Visor, but all they're really there for is for Batman, Robin, and Batgirl to punch and kick, or for them to say to Penguin, yes, boss. So they have no other real role. Unlike, say, the previous episode with the Siren, where her two goons actually did have some real interaction with her and some character. Now, I know you told me at the beginning of the show you have Joel Eisner's official Batman Bat book. The trivia question from this episode that he gave us, actually, you just recently answered. What was the name of the jockey that was supposed to ride Parasol?
That's Willie Shoemaker.
Yeah, well, that's Willie Shoemaker is the real jockey, but what was the character's name, the spoof on?
Oh, the character's name, yes, Wally Bootmaker.
Yeah, or as Kevin Lauderdale recently coined the phrase, the Neo-Batism.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so you're Robin the Boy Wonder. You've watched now these 2 parts. You're in the Batcave. You turn to Batman as it's ending, and you want to sum up the experience of watching this episode, and you say, holy what?
I'm going to keep it clean and just say holy horse feathers, Batman. Because here's the problem. I really want to be kind. I treat this final season as the final season of Twilight Zone, that nobody felt this was the last season, and everyone was really trying. But the problem is, with bringing in Ethel Merman and not knowing really what to do with her, to bring in a lot of vaudeville, a lot of shtick, to bring in continuity with Barbara and Penguin, but not with Penguin and Alfred, and that whole complicated trying to unfix a fixed horse race, and then just have Lola Lasagna smile to the camera, turn, walk away. No, it's a guilty pleasure episode. Again, if I bought the set, which I did, on Blu-ray, there are episodes I'm going to watch over and over again. There are some that if I never watch again, I'll be okay. This will be one of them, but this just felt like I accidentally walked behind a horse, I tapped it, and it kicked me in the side of the head.
Wow. I agree with you. I had to say I was in the same vein there. I was like, holy horse glue. Or to actually use a Sherman T. Potterism, holy horse hockey. You know, this is a story that could have been so much better. Again, Hoffman got great ideas. Either the producers should have really just gone all out, which is the thing. It's like there's moments where they're trying to be really funny or trying to be really thoughtful about certain things, and then there are others that just fall completely flat. They should have gone all out since they were bothering with 2 parts, or they should have dialed it back completely. Because frankly, I could just slash this thing. In some ways, I think about Robert Long, who's been on our podcast a couple of times here, and he did an edit of the 3-part episode, The Zodiac Crimes, as though it were a movie. But I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I'd like to take a crack at editing this thing down into one episode that might actually be watchable.
Yeah, there was no reason for this to be a 2-parter, especially since we never got a real cliffhanger. We just got, we ran out of time, and I think if you just would have taken out all that vaudeville shtick, this is just a simple fixed horse race episode.
Yeah, the vaudeville shtick, the Penguin gas, just so much of it just could have been removed. And you just have the very beginning, the switching of you could do the very beginning, the glue scene, the glue factory scene actually, with the switch happens, and then maybe the quick Batcave scene with the Bat computer working it all out, and then we're going to go, and the rest of the episode is the horse race itself.
The thing is that Joker in the 70s had a series of comics that didn't do well. They only lasted 9 issues. And that was because a hero is only good as a villain. As much as we want to see Joker all the time and have a series of comics, if he has no one to play off of, it doesn't make an ounce of sense. To have Penguin, if you wanted to give Burgess his own show as the Penguin as Sergeant Bilko, and have Batman and Robin as a cameo every now and then, it could have worked. But I don't know if that's where Dozier was going, and I don't even think if Burgess knew if that's where it was going. I do know he didn't enjoy playing this character, and he just at times felt it was a gig, but then fans would come up to him and they would say, oh, we love Penguin, and, who was Burgess to say no to his fans? So that's the only thing I could think about this one.
now as we come to the end of the episode, I want to give you an opportunity here. Tell me about the Hunnic Outcast podcast.
We are a grab bag of pop culture. We have decided to put the podcast on shuffle. You never know what we're going to get. We sometimes advertise in advance. If we get a few extra downloads, we'll give you a bonus podcast. But we're not as themed as we used to be. Originally, we were doing Godzilla and kaiju movies, and then I just decided I wasn't getting much of an audience, so I figured we're just going to shuffle everything around. So for this month, we were doing Hulk comic book discussions, but we have done Batman discussions. We pretty much dive into anything that the listeners on Facebook are interested to, and we'll just discuss it. Last year, we did discuss Batman the Killing Joke and Arkham: A Serious House on Serious Earth as scary clowns and haunted houses. Well, we're going to be redoing that roundtable Killing Joke episode because I have some new co-hosts who want to take a crack at it. So we are going to be redoing the Killing Joke episode, which will be great. And, of course, there's a comic book that nobody's heard of called Arkham Living Hell, so that'll be interesting as well.
Very cool. Now, how can people get a hold of the podcast?
On Facebook, there's our main page, Hunnic Outcasts. We have a group page, The Hunnic Outcasts, Twitter at Hunnic Outcasts, and you can leave us feedback at hunnicfeedback@gmail.com.
Okay. I'll put links up so that people can also make the connection there in our show notes. Is the show on iTunes?
We are not only on iTunes, we're also on Spreaker.com. That's where we're getting most of our listeners, because I found out that not many people have been using iTunes. They're a little frustrated with it, and I can understand with all the updates. It goes from blue to red to multicolor at this point. So, yeah, we are on Spreaker. We have been on SoundCloud. We're probably going to be going back. So, again, if you don't want to go onto iTunes, we do set up a Spreaker.com link for you.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you once again for agreeing to appear on the podcast. I had a really good time talking about this one, even though I didn't like the episode. So, folks, tune in next time when we're going to, as I've discussed already here, we're going to be talking about King Tut. He's back. I finally come to accept him for who he is. I mean, because I did like Victor Buono. I just never liked what they did with King Tut. I always thought that maybe they played up the comedy too much, but I've always got to admit that he was, out of all the villains, he's always been given solid stories. So hopefully that will continue in this next one coming up. And I'm joined in the episode by my co-host for the Shazam ISIS podcast, Mr. Richard F. Lee. So tune in for that in 2 weeks' time. So until next time, citizens, thank you so much for listening. Take care, chums.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. I'm off to Glue Gluten's Glue Factory. Hi-ho, Persicone, away!
Thanks for listening, chums. I don't have a backbone, but you can contact the Batcave podcast through its Facebook page, Twitter, email at thebatcavepodcast@gmail.com, or by phone at 888-866-9010. Subscribe to the podcast via Libsyn.com, that's LIBSYN.com, or through iTunes. The Batcave Podcast is part of a series of pop culture podcasts from the Chronic Rift Network. Find them at chronicrift.com. So until next time, citizens, same bat time, same Batcave Podcast.
Little dusty, Barbara?
Oh, hi, Daddy. I was just trying to spruce up the Egyptology section of the library, but the sands of time seem to have pretty well buried it.
Yeah.
I was going to call you at your office later, but then I just haven't had time.
I haven't been at the office. I've been at the races.
Races? The police commissioner?
All in the line of duty, Barbara, and it paid off. A penguin and a female cohort tried to fix the Bruce Wayne handicap, but we fixed them. So, to celebrate, I thought I would take my favorite librarian out on the town tonight.
Your favorite librarian would love it. Just let me freshen up a little bit.
What's the matter? King Tut.
I didn't expect to turn up a pharaoh in here. Where did he go?
Well, you can never tell about King Tut, my dear, but I'd better alert Batman.
You mean a real arch-criminal has turned up here in the library?
Well, part of him anyway. He's a split personality, a modern-day Yale professor some of the time.
And the rest of the time?
A reincarnated Egyptian despot. Old as the pyramids, wise as the Sphinx.
Oh, he sounds fascinating.
No, darling, not fascinating. He is fiendishly evil. The most dangerous kind of fraud. I'd better get word to the dynamic duo.
So, King Tut has returned, but for what evil purpose? With what nefarious scheme? And what is he doing in this library? Watch the next episode for the awesome answer.